Welcome to another episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and I got a very special guest today. Today, my guest is Joe Serna. He's a Green Beret, a veteran. He's here to tell his experience. Welcome, Joe.
Hey, Willie.
How you doing, man?
Good, man. It's good to have. Hey, it's good to be on here, man. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. I've been listening to your stuff, man. Your stuff is good. I love it.
Thank you, bro. Yeah, I've been watching your story for a while now, and I think you got an incredible story. And if you wanna talk about when you join the military and what goes through
So
that process.
I joined the service in '95, and it was not like because I had a military family. It was really because I had a baby when I was young. I was a baby having a baby,
Yeah,
and so I didn't know anything about the military. My family didn't know anything about the military, so I was kind of like the first generation in the military. And really, uh, it sucks to say, but I'm like, I was looking for a paycheck, brother. And
yeah,
so I went to recruiter's office, and they told me about this big dream. And I said, hey man, as long as we can eat, you pay me, and I'm good with it, homeboy. That's how I got into the military.
yeah. Take care of your family, right?
I have to take care of it. I mean, there wasn't much for me to do, man. I was born and
Yeah,
raised in Stockton, California, so it's not like we had a lot of options.
yeah.
I was born in not poverty because my dad did he worked hard for us. My sister
Hmm.
and my brother, we worked hard for us. So it wasn't like we were born in poverty. We were born. We weren't born with a silver spoon, and he did his best to take us away from things. So he did his best, and so that's how we were. I was born and raised. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you join the army and you joined the Green Berets, right?
So initially, I joined as an artilleryman because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything about the military. So the recruiter sold me this job on artillery. I'm like, okay, cool. And eventually, the opportunity came up, and while I was in the military, said, hey, you can this is here's a different job, and it's called the Green Berets, and it was around that time when I first heard about what they do, what the Green Berets do, and this was after 9/11. This is right around 9/11 is when I really got interested in it. And after 9/11 happened, uh, I already had made my mind up saying I'm gonna go serve my country doing something else. And it was the Green Berets.
Yeah. So now when you're how long do you train for to be a Green Beret?
Okay, so from start to finish, from the selection process to uh, the start date of when you drop your packet to be a Green Beret to when you actually don the beret, which means you graduated. So that process is about two and a half years. So
Wow.
to go through the whole training, it's not like SEAL training where you got Hell Week. No, this is you're doing about two to 2.5 years of training to don the Green Beret.
Wow. So you have a bunch of different skills that you're applying for to
Absolutely,
be
yeah.
you're like top of the class,
Well, I
right?
don't know about top of the class, man. We still get our ass whooped, but
Well,
I don't know about top of the class. But there is a small percentage of the military that can do training.
yeah. And you made it through.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's a big
yeah.
feat in itself cuz everyone don't make it through, you know?
No, about 75% wash out of the training. There's
Wow.
a high number that don't make it through training. So it is an elite group of guys that you serve with, and it is a different lifestyle. It's not you're not going to you're doing more than just what the army asks you. You're doing something something a higher selection process to get a higher caliber of guys to do a specific job. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that must feel good that when you graduate and get that beret and be
It is
standing.
the stress behind. behind the whole thing. And I think uh, going to the training is tough, not physically all the time. It is physically, yeah, it is physical. But the stress of completing the training and then donning the Green Beret, because nobody wants to fail out. You know, everybody has the same focus. It's like, you know what, I want to don it. That's the whole point of saying, you know what, and we're all junior guys, so we don't know what the Green Beret is about. We're just saying, man, that headgear looks cool. You're right, kind of one of those things. So when we're going through training, nobody wants. You don't want to. If you fell out, man, you're going back to the regular army. You know, we call it needs of the army. You're not moving on, and so there's a lot of stress put on you to complete training, so you can get a new job, so you can be a Green Beret.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about when you started to go over there and serve for your
Yeah,
country after you became a Green Beret?
yeah, and that was a tough one. Because when we were going through training, our our goal, my goal, I'm not gonna say our, 'cause I can't speak for the mass, but I can almost guarantee you that most of the Green Berets, their Super Bowl going to the big game is combat. We don't go through all this years of training just to say, you know what, put me on the bench, coach. No, put me in the fight, and that's where I kind of and I met that goal, and I'm proud to say that I've done that service to the country.
Yeah.
But but there's another side to it where you get your ass whooped, and I got my ass whooped a couple times. I did not go over there. You got to think about this. There's 12 guys on an ODA. We call it an ODA. It's an A team. If there's 12 guys on the team and you're going in the country to fight, you're expecting to have at least 2/3 of the team to get injured. So you go in the country to this fight, you're expecting over half of them to get injured. You know, and that's just kind of the
Wow.
risk we take. That's kind of the risk we take, but we don't think of it like that. It's just I think of it like that. Now I have numbers to it, but when you're going through training and you're getting assigned to your group and to your unit, you don't think like that. You think, man, put me in, coach. Hell, man,
Yeah.
I'm Jerry Rice. Hell, I'm Joe
Yeah.
Montana. I'm Tom Brady. Let me win. So that's kind of the mentality we have going into. We don't think we're gonna lose. So when we get hit or get injured, we get killed. It's part of the game, brother. You know,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I went into Afghanistan, and that's I guess I'm tying it back to your question. Going back over there, yeah, you know, I mean, I enjoyed the fight, man.
Yeah, when you're going over there, is it like a shock to your whole system being going from where you are training and all that and then going over to like completely different
Yeah,
surroundings?
yes. So when I went over there, so we can simulate training here. We can everything for the way you think, the situations you're put in, uh, the culture. We try to simulate. When you go over there and land, the biggest shock for me was, man, everybody is 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 what we trained to. Everybody's wearing we call it the man jam. What's the whole, the whatever they wear. Everybody's wearing turbans. All the women are covered up. I mean, that was my culture shock when I got off the plane and I seen the culture. I was like, man, I thought people were going to be in jeans and t-shirts. Like we're in training, and you throw this stuff at us, and the way people are dressed, and you're like, oh, okay, it's just training. Then when you go over there, you're like, okay, we're gonna see normal people like us back in the States wearing American flag shirts and just kind of different stuff. But when you're over there, you're like, oh shit, everybody is wearing the same thing. Everybody's covered up. Everybody's wearing turban. Everybody's sandals. And I'm like, that's the culture shock. And that's what I had to adjust really fast to, because and then and if you didn't have a beard over there, they ain't gonna talk
Yeah.
to you. They don't care about you. It's a masculinity thing. It's like, okay, we're gonna go off our Bible. We're gonna say, you know what, the Quran says this. And then when we go over there and try to affect the areas, they're gonna like, no, we're not gonna talk to you guys. If you guys come in our area, you're not culturally sensitive. We're not gonna talk to you. So
Yeah.
so that not only the what we were wearing, but it's how we carried ourselves. That's why a lot of the Green Berets, man, we went over there with beards because they won't talk to us. The men won't talk to us if we didn't have beards because we weren't men if we didn't have them. So that's kind of like the culture shock, that kind of experience. That was an initial shock, man. I was like, holy crap, man, how do I get out of here?
Yeah.
I didn't expect all that, man, but it was cool, man.
Yeah. So are you like when you're out in the streets and everyone's wearing turbans and stuff, are you like not knowing who has a gun underneath it? Are you like worried about everyone?
Dude, you're key, man. And when you go out and we always stay when we're out with the locals. We always stay in a group. There's sometimes where, because I went to Afghanistan, and I heard some of my boys go to Iraq, and it's a different they were there, But for us, it was a lot of villages. So we stayed in groups, but I was always worried about, because you don't know the terrain, you don't know the people, you don't know what's going to happen. So you're always keyed on. Your mind is always working, and it's tough to decompress when you come back. But yeah, you're always keyed on, man. You're like, you don't trust anybody. And there was days and weeks, man, where we'd go out with the villagers and not necessarily kicking doors and do cool guy shit and shoot people up, man. It wasn't always like that. You had to go out there and you had to make face for the U.S. Presence and say, man, we're here to build bridges and stuff like that. So it wasn't always combat operations. It was, we have to work with the local police department. We have to work with the local government. Dude, and it was hard to trust people, man, because you don't know who was on payroll. And there's tons of incidents where we had, we can trust, our local or national counterparts, and they would turn around and shoot our guys. So we've always had, you have to put trust in something. You have to believe into something. It's hard to do that. So yeah, we just I don't know if I got away from your question, man, but yeah, it was tough for me.
Yeah, no, you answered it pretty good. So do you want to talk about the situation when you had to interrogate the prisoner?
So it was about 2008, and it was and this was right after I had my second serious injury. I was gonna come home from that injury. And the second injury is probably the worst because all my friends died on next to me, and they told my family, hey man, Joe's coming back home, and I picked a phone call, and this was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Which said, you know what? I told my family, my wife at the time, she was 6 months pregnant, and they told her, well, Joe's coming home. He had a bad accident. He's coming home, and he'll be there in about a week or two. And I picked up the phone and I said, hey, I'm not coming home. I decided to stay in country to fight. At this time, man, there was just a lot of stuff going on in my head, man. It was just a lot of things, like a lot of stuff that I didn't accomplish, and so I wanted to stay in country and finish my tour. And when I say country, I mean Afghanistan. So I wanted to stay in Afghanistan and finish the fight. Whatever I was gonna go, I was coming home because eventually I was gonna come home because my son was born. I was gonna come home early, but I didn't want to come home that early. I wanted to stay and fight as long as I could.
How long have you been there at that point?
About 5 months.
Okay.
About 5 months. So I was in country for 5 months. This is my third deployment. So I already spent like 2 or 3 years there. And this was after I was having a good time, dude. I was seeing a bunch of people. It was fun. And then of course at sometimes it's not always going to be you're always on the winning end. Sometimes you're going to be like you're on the losing end. And I guess that's what kind of drove me to stay longer because I was like, you know what? Yeah, sometimes I get my ass whooped, and sometimes I hand it out. But I wanted to finish my tour there before I came home to see my son being born. And we didn't have, one of the crazy things is, man, we didn't even have a name for my son. When I was deployed, I was like, we like, we knew that we were pregnant, and we knew we were having a boy. We have a name, and after my second incident, uh, the guy who saved my life, I named my son after him in honor of him. He died, but well,
Yeah,
so
do you want to
so
just talk
so
about that time when with the guy with the how did you were you out on patrol when you had to go meet, like, get these people, like the prisoners?
so so all right. So I ended up, so after that accident, I stayed there. And, we had a we had another mission, and uh, they dropped us in this bad area. It's a really bad area. It's called Helmand. It's like the ghetto of Afghanistan. So you're always gonna fight there. You know you're gonna fight once you get there. So if we're gonna be there for 2-3 weeks, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all the fighting age male and we're gonna put them in one compound. Anybody we see, we're gonna take them and we're gonna put them in one compound so we don't get shot at night. And so part of my job was like, hey, Joe, go in there and pull these guys out of the compound one at a time and interview them. We call it interrogation, but we call it interrogation.
Yeah.
And you know, and all right, I did some bad shit to him, so I probably got my ass for that. But I don't care. Wow. And and I was interrogating them, and so part of my job was like, hey man, bring these guys into a small compound, small ass dirt room, and I was telling the Afghani commandos, the people we're working with, the Afghanis, I said, hey, your job is to make sure those guys, we call it clean, bring them in clean, which means they're searched. We took the turban off their head, we tied it on around their backs, and they'll bring them in. So, and they would do that, and I was just interviewing guys after guys, man. And I was just getting kind of complacent, because we were interviewing dudes. I was interviewing about a lot of dudes, and we're talking about a bad area. And so I'm like, okay, I interview, and then I'll go out, and then we'll get in a firefight, and we'll go patrol, and we'll do, we'll do some things, we'll do our job, and then I'll come back, and I'll do some more interviewing. And so I wasn't at this point. I had put my mindset of I was ready. I don't care what I was doing. I was doing things recklessly, and I wasn't really caring about the guys that were coming in that I was interviewing. I was just coming in. I'll talk to them. I wasn't searching them because I trusted our partners were searching them before they brought them to me, and so that's the backdrop to the story. So now I'm in a room, and now I'm interviewing them, and now and now I have these guys. Some crazy shit to these guys, and I have these guys on their knees, and I'm looking at a guy, and I'm sitting there, and I'm telling them that, hey, I'm asking them questions. My interpreter, my translator is speaking Pashto, telling him what I'm saying, and we're going back and forth, and I'm yelling at him, and I hear a pop, pop. And it's a metallic click. It's a real distinctive click, and when you hear a pop, you know in your training what that is, and what it was a grenade. So the guy says, the guy that I was interviewing, I hear, and he had something behind his back, and he let it go, and I hear like boom, hear a metallic click, and then I said, shit, this guy just dropped a grenade on himself. He's gonna blow us up. And I was behind his back, and I'm looking down at it, and I seen a grenade. I said, man, I got 5 seconds to kick him on top of this grenade. If not, he's gonna blow me up and my translator up. And so I put my foot in his chest, and so when he went back, and the way his legs were crossed, he went to the opposite side of the grenade, and the grenade went off. I was standing on top of it. So when I was interviewing this guy, I thought he was all clean. I thought when he came into me, when he came to me in this room, remember, it's a small ass room. It's just made of mud. So this is gonna be important to the story. It was just made of mud. So it's a little dirt room, and I'm interviewing this guy, and he's in front of me, and I'm looking down at him, and I hear a metallic click, and anybody in the military knows that that click sounds like a grenade from a spoon getting pulled, a pin getting pulled, and I'm like, oh, so I look at him and I see the grenade rolling from behind him, and I said, man, this isn't that. I know I have 5 seconds. Now, did I have that much thought into it? No, and not at the time. It was just my training that kicked in, because I didn't say he has 5 seconds and it's gonna blow up. I said, oh shit, it's a grenade, and I put my boot in. But the way his legs were crossed, he rolled to the opposite side. He rolled to the opposite side of the grenade, and I was standing in the V. We call it the V of the grenade. The V of the grenade is when it comes up and blows out. The grenade, it doesn't. It's not a 360. It's not omnidirectional. It has like a blast pattern to it. What made me is that I was standing on top of the grenade.
Oh, so if you weren't in the blast pattern. Yeah.
I wasn't in the blast. I was on the grenade, but the grenade goes in a V shape, and so I was in the V, and well, kind of to the right, because I have you look at my body, you look at all the shrapnel that entered my body, it all comes from the right. So you've seen the blast pattern, but I wasn't directly to where I'm like, you know what, if I'm too far to the left or too far to the right, I would have died. I was standing on the. If I wasn't standing on the grenade, and it went off, it would kill me. And unlike Hollywood, man, Hollywood kind of when grenades go off and you get blow, because it was a Russian grenade. It was called pineapple. It was a pineapple grenade, and so you find munitions, all type of munitions for Chinese made to Russian made, because that country's been at war for a long time. You still find hint fields from 1800s, even when the British was there that long ago. That country has always been at war. So these munitions, they're not as current as our equipment, but effective. So like AKs and stuff like that, and so it was a Russian grenade from, I guess, when the Russians were there. Anyway, he had dropped the grenade, and I kicked him on top of it. Instead of landing it, he went to the side of it, and it went off. And I'm like tie it back to like Hollywood. You don't. There's not this big explosion. You don't fly 2 feet away. Grenade goes off, it hits you, you drop. The shrapnel goes so fast through your body. The only thing that's gonna hurt on that is the overpressure, because it's a small room. So you're gonna feel the overpressure. Every bone in my body was aching after the grenade went off. I didn't know I was hit as bad as I was hit. I just felt like if I was in a heavyweight fight and Mike Tyson hit me, I dropped right there. I dropped. It was just it was that quick. It wasn't like this dramatic like Hollywood shit. It goes off, man. I weigh too much for that shit. They blow out paper, so it drops me. And as soon as it drops me, the room we call it brownout. When lights go out, you call it blackout. But when the dust kicks up, it's a brownout. So it's totally brown. I couldn't see the guy 3 feet in front of me. And I'm on the ground, I'm laying down, and I know at this time, I'm like, wait a minute, something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Everything in my body shaking. It went through my chin, it went through my ears, it went through my bone. Every bone was rattling. And I didn't know it was a blast till after. And I look up, and the room is brown. I look up, and my Turk had the sense to run to the door to get help. So when he opened the door, it was big orange. The sun came through the dust and made an orange blob. So I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to run that way. So I stood up. I took one step and I collapsed. My left leg took me to the damage. And I'm like, oh, man. Like, dude, I'm paralyzed. I can't do anything. I'm paralyzed. And so I'm sitting. He and I are sitting in this brown room that's full of dust. And the orange blob is coming from my right side. And I'm like, I know where the door is at. I just can't get there. It's just too far. So the only thing for me to do is say, you know what? I'm going to kill this dude before he gets to me. And there's a gun in here somewhere. I just can't find it. Everything. My total senses. Everything just went wacky. And I said, man, there's a gun here, and it's between he and I. I got to find out where it's at. because I don't know what he's doing. And so the whole room was dirt. It was dusty. And so I get up. I try to run to the door. I collapse. I said, man. So I crawl my way back to the wall, and I lean against the wall. And then my body just started giving up on me. So I started leaning to the right, like going down. And I was like, this breath was laboring. And I was like, oh man, I can hear my dying. And I'm like, this nasty. And I leaned to the side. And I remember I was so angry, my eyes started watering up. And the dust on my face, the was going down the creases of it. It started puddling off my nose. And I'm like, and I see it. And I'm like, man, I can't die here, man. I can't die here. There's no way I'm gonna die here. So and I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna punch this guy. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get up and we're just gonna fight. I don't care what it takes because I'm gonna die, but I'm gonna die on that guy. And so I get up and then by the time the dust starts settling, and I seen a figure. I seen a figure appear. What I seen was his body, and he started leaning to the side. And so I get up against the wall, and I have one shot at this guy, and that's it, bro. One shot, and it's a wrap. I don't know what to do with this. So I get up and I launch at him, and I throw one punch at his face. That's all I had in me. And I seen the gun, so I punch him, and I don't know how. I probably didn't hit him. I probably hit like a bitch or something like that, man. But I did what I did to fight to get myself out of that position. And when I hit him, I fell on him and the gun. Yeah. And so I was like, shit, I got the gun now. And so I pick it up, and then I instinctively, bro, I don't know why I did what I did next, but I picked the gun up, and what I did was I unloaded the gun. I dropped the magazine. I checked it. I pulled back the charging handle of the gun. I seen a round eject. I said, damn, man, load it. So I stuck the magazine back in. I charged it. I hit the forward assist on our gun. I hit the forward assist because it helps feed the bolt forward and push the bullet into the chamber. So I chambered around, and I took the gun. I took it from safe to not safe to semi. Take one shot, and I took it to a 3-round burst. So I took the selector lever to a 3-round burst, and I pulled the trigger on him. The first one hit the wall. It was like poof. I seen it, but I wasn't really aiming. I was aiming at him, but I couldn't control my arms and all this. So the first round went to the wall. The second and third round hit him in the stomach. It was like pop, and I seen him bounce. I don't know if you ever shot anybody, but
no.
It's weird. It's weird, man. It's weird. So his body jerked, right? And then he started going to the side. And I said, man, I got to get out of here. I just killed it. I get shot in the stomach. And now I got to wait. Now I got to get up and I hopped to the door. Literally, I hopped to the door. I hopped the door, and then once I breached the door, and I seen it was outside. I collapsed. And when I collapsed, I fell next to another Taliban fighter that we just hemmed up. And he's laying down. He's acting like he wasn't dead. He was acting like he was dead. But we just hemmed him up, so I know he was alive. And so I fell next to him. I'm like, man, I'm not going to die next to this fool. I said, let me get myself out of here. So I picked myself up again, and I hopped to, this is like compound. We're talking about compounds that are really close together. And I collapsed in an alley. It looked like an alley, a bunch of compounds put together, like an alley. And I remember looking up at the sun, man, and I remember seeing crows. And I said, man, to myself, I said, man, you ever seen these Civil War books? And you had these Civil War soldiers with swollen lips. And people were taking, and there was some, we had a United Arab Emirates that we were working with, a foreign nation that we were kind of hand in hand, we holding hands, kind of working with them. And they were taking pictures of me. And I'm like, dude, in my mind, I'm like, hey, they're taking pictures of me. I don't want my grandkids seeing me in some book, swollen lips and all that shit. Like, get that shit out of their hand. Because I'm not going to die right here on this battlefield. Hell no. So I got up and I walked another 5 feet and I collapsed. And I said, man, dude. And I started talking to my friends. This time, people start collecting on me, helping me out, giving me morphine, checking my pecker and all that crap, right? Because, you don't know, when you blow up, you're like, dude, you think, man, is my stuff still there?
Yeah.
My feet still there? It's weird stuff goes on in your head. Hit me with morphine. Hit me with something.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, Joe, we can't hit you with any more morphine, dude, or you're going to die. And at this time, I can't feel any pain. I was more. I feared dying because I couldn't control my arms. It was hard for me to talk. So I knew that I was circling. I knew I was going, and then I was on the ground looking up at the sun and the crows. I'm like, dude, this reminds me of like the Civil War shit. And I start yelling at the UAE guy. I start, trying my best to point out, like, put that camera away. Put that camera, because if I died, all my kids would see me dead. I mean, that's the last thing I want them to see in a Civil War book, man. I was like, man, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, where I fell, I said, hey, pick me up and move me to the shade. And so they grabbed me and they shoved me to the shade. And I thought, man, this is bad. I'm dying. And in my head, now I have to survive. I don't have any medical attention. The helicopters are coming in. They're not picking our ass up. It's too hot here. The helicopters cannot land here because they're going to get shot down coming in trying to pick me up. And of course, they're not going to come in because there's going to be more casualties. So I'm like, hey, pick me up, move me 5 feet. I said, and they're like, why? I'm like, move me. And so they picked me up and they moved 5 feet. And I was in there and I started dying again. And I said, no, man, pick me up. In my head, I was surviving. I wasn't doing anything else but surviving. I said, man, I'm going to die here. If I lay right here, I'm going to die. So pick me up and move me 5 more feet. So they were bouncing me around through this alley. And finally, they got tired. They're like, Joe, hey, man, we can't pick you up anymore. We don't know what you're doing. And they don't know they didn't know my survival instinct kicked in. They didn't know that. They just knew that they were moving their homeboy back and forth. And then they're like, man, we got another casualty, man. We got to work on. We can't keep moving you. I'm like, hell no, you're gonna move me. They pick me up and they do this about four more times. And I said, you know what? Go get me an Afghani. And they're like, all right, man, we'll get you an Afghani. But I said, bring him over here. And he's like, all right. I said, what I want him to do is I want him to shoo the flies off my face because I don't want to die with flies off my face. All I want is surviving again. And finally, the helicopters, they end up calling, we call it medevac. So the helicopters come in and then it's about they land up 2 miles away. And my boys, we steal a car, a truck, a pickup truck, a Hilux. And they load me on the back of a truck. I don't know where they got this car from. Because I didn't see a car the whole time I was around. Oh, yeah, I did. I blew it up. So they threw me in the back of this truck. And they threw me in the back of this truck and they start hauling ass to the helicopter. And they're like, Joe, don't die. And then by this time, I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to screw with their heads. Right? And so I start closing my eyes, acting like I was, dying and shit like that, just giving them a bad time. And they're like, Joe, keep your eyes open. And I'm like, and I said, hey, it's the sun. The sun's coming down on my eyes. I was being a baby at this time.
Yeah.
So they take out, the poncho liner, whatever we call a poncho liner, a piece of cloth we throw over us at night. They took that out and they put it over and they passed shade on me. And I was like, I was acting like a baby. Yeah. And I'm like, man, the sun's in my eyes, bro. And I was acting like I was dead. So I was like, they're like, Joe, don't die. I'm like, all dying and shit. And and so I was at that time I was like, hey, I might as well go out with a laugh. And helicopter, they put us on a helicopter, and it was one of my translator, interpreter. He was injured too. So they were running 2 of us to the helicopter, right? So
how long was it from the time the grenade went off until the helicopter landed? Do you know the time frame?
Man. The time frame, I would say no more than 30 minutes. It felt like a lifetime, bro. Because when you're dealing with your life, it feels every minute stretches out. So I honestly couldn't tell you. I'd be guessing right now how long it took the helicopter to get there. It was long enough for the helicopter to say we're not going to land here because it's too dangerous, and it was long enough for us to steal a truck and put me on. I'm not sure how long it was. And I, you know what? I never went back and revisited that with my buddies. I never asked them. Because every time I got injured, man, I didn't want to know the location of what got injured. I didn't want to know, any kind of details. I'm just like, man, throw my ass on the helicopter. And I remember I was afraid, man. I was afraid. I told my buddy, man, are you going to come with me? He's like, oh, I can't come with you this time. Because I got injured before. And they would jump on the helicopter with me, and they would escort me back. And this time he's like, Joe, I can't go on the helicopter with you. I'm like, man, come on, man, just go. Because if I die, I gotta have somebody there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can't. And I'm like, I understand. So they threw me on the helicopter with the translator. And dude, I told you, I described what he looked like, right? He was a white dude, red hair, speaking perfectly good English. I was brown, short. I had no U.S. name tag. I didn't have anything that said you're a U.S. A soldier. It was just a regular uniform. We call it sterile. And so I had nothing on me to identify me as a U.S. soldier. And
you didn't have your dog tags? Did you have your dog tags?
I never wore my dog tags. We don't. You know what? Nobody ever wears dog tags. I'm sorry. There's nobody wears it. We can't. You know what? If we get rolled up over there, you don't want to identify yourself as a U.S. soldier. That's for us because what we were doing. You don't want. If we got rolled up and we didn't want to identify ourselves as Americans, so we dressed like the people we were training. And so I didn't have dog tags. What I did have was like my called battle roster. It's a piece of cloth, and it has two letters for your last name, the first two letters of your last name, and your last four, and then your blood type. We call it a battle roster. So they can take that off me, and they can radio in and say, hey man, this is coming to you. So that's how they identified me. And but at the same time I couldn't talk, bro. There was nothing. At this time my whole body was kind of reacted to the injuries, and I just couldn't talk. So when they threw us on a helicopter, they put both of us on the helicopter. They put the Turk and I together on the helicopter, and it flew us, I think it was maybe a 25, not even that. It was a real quick flight. We went to a British hospital, and they pulled us off the plane. The British pulled us off the plane, and then they would run us up to who's it. So we were racing to the operating room, because they were waiting for us to land at the airfield.
Yeah.
And they were going to take in the Afghani first. And I said, and my partner was like, no, you take the American first. And they're like, no, that is the American we're taking. They're like, no, that's an Afghani. And my partner was like, no, that's when he cut off the uniform. And they're like, why? And he's like, they're not talking. He looks like an Afghani. He's not talking English. This guy's white and he's talking English. So that's the only thing they were basing it off of.
And you had a beard at that time.
I was like, hell no.
And you had a beard.
I had a beard. I looked like an Afghani. Yeah, had a beard. Had a full beard.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally said, hey man, cut off his uniforms. They took a scalpel and they were cutting my sleeves off. And they're like, and then they got to my skin, and he's like, hey, what Afghani has a Raider tattoo?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh shit, this is American. And I was like, get damn right, it's American. And they rushed me into the emergency room and the ER, and they started working on me. I don't know how long I was there. Honestly, I don't know how long I was there.
Yeah.
And so when I woke up in the recovery room, right? Yeah. But I woke up in a ward where they had there was no separation, man. You had the British people all on one side, then you had the Americans that were injured, then you had the Afghani villagers, then you had the Taliban all in one area. It was just one. They were like, you're all injured, you're all casualties, you guys are all recovering. There's no fighting here. And so I woke up the Taliban. They're like, they had in surgery. They got confused because in surgery, because I still had the beard, they put me with the Taliban side. And when I woke up, I remember I took my shirt off. I'm like, oh shit, I have nothing but I have 74 staples in my stomach. Every single hole in my body, they had cut open, made it larger because they didn't want. You can't if you're injured over there, they don't want infections to happen. So if he blew himself up and his skin got in there, his skin got into mine, they won't sew it up. So they cut it open, they sliced it open, and they let it heal from the inside out. That's just how they do it. So we don't, so I don't get infected. So I had my injuries. My injuries were they had cut them. They took a razor and they cut about 50 holes in me. So I had these patches all over me, and I looked down, and I had they had opened my stomach up, so from my chest all the way down to the pubic bone. That they had opened me up, and they took all my insides out so that they could take the shrapnel out of stuff, make sure that nothing else was bleeding. And they put me back together, state me, and then they said, he's going to recover in the ward. And when I woke up though, because I had the beard, and then by that time I had a gown on, and they had put me with the Taliban, right? And the Taliban was talking shit to me. I said, man, what are these fools doing? And they're like, my Turk should have been closer to the Taliban, was on the other side of me. I said, hey man, what are they saying? He's like, Joe, leave it alone. I said, what are they saying? They're like, Joe, they're calling you infidel and a bunch of bad things about Americans. I said, they're talking shit. I said, we just got done fighting with these dudes. And the guy that was running his mouth had one leg, because it got blown off. Somewhere it got blown off. His leg was missing. And he was the one running. He was running his mouth, and he was getting the rest of the guys hired because I was the American in the Taliban. And he's like, hey, he's cussing at me and whatever they were cussing. I'm like, hey. I said, hey, Sammy. His name is Sammy. Sammy. What are they saying? And he's like, bro, hey, let it go. He said, and then I'm like, nah, you still work for me. So you tell me what they're saying. He's like, well, they're talking shit. I said, oh, you do? He's like, yeah. And that, you got to remember, my mindset was just number 5. It was switched on.
Those are the enemy. You're like, that's the enemy still.
Yeah, it was the enemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the enemy. And so my mind was switched on, and I was still in that warrior mindset where I'm like, hey, okay, I don't know maybe how long it was there, for an hour, 2 hours. I don't know how long I was there, but not even half a day before that, we were fighting each other. I'm like, now they put me with you guys. We're gonna get it on, right? And so I told my Terp, I told my translator, I was like, hey, go give me a wheelchair, dude. I had every hose and tube and IV bags, everything. I got 18 tubes coming out everywhere.
Yeah.
Draining stuff that I didn't even know they can drain. And my stomach was open, but I was doped up, so I didn't really feel anything. And I was like, hey man, go give me a wheelchair. So he ran and got me a wheelchair. And I said, all right, man, go give me a cane. I said, walk on. Go give me a cane. Yeah. So he's like, all right, Joe. And, he's Afghan, so he's listening because I'm his boss. I said, all right, man. He's like, what are you gonna do now? I said, go push me over there. He's like, where? I said, go run me down to the Taliban, the enemies. So we're gonna kick off again, right on. We're gonna fight. Because in my mind I was still fighting. And I remember he said, okay, Joe, and he did what I said. And I remember he got me a cane, and I remember walking over to he pushed me in the wheelchair, and I picked the cane like this, right? And the guy that was talking shit, I was gonna work him. I was gonna get to this guy. We weren't friends at all. And halfway down there, I hit a lady in the wheelchair, spun him up, I flipped around, and I looked up, man. It was a British doctor, right? And I said, man, you're not my Turk. And I looked behind him, I leaned to the side. I'm like, where's my boy at? And what happened? He fell over his tubes because he had a colostomy bag. He fell over. He got tangled on his tubes and pushed me towards the bad guy, and the doctor intercepted me. Yeah. And spun me around. And they're like, where you going? They're like, where you going? I'm like, what do you mean, where am I going? I explained the whole situation. I'm like, these guys are fighting me, and I'm fighting them. It's not over with yet. We're still going to get it on in your stupid hospital. And they're like, nah, Joe, we can't do that here. You guys are all recovering. And I'm like, nah, dude, this ain't going to happen. I said, we're going to fight. And I threw my cane at the guy. And he's like, no, bro, you got to get back to your bed. And I'm like, I ain't going back to that, because I didn't want to go to sleep, because I knew if I went to sleep with those guys, they were going to get me. Yeah. And so they ended up taking me back to my bed, and they put me on the bed, and I got up there, and I remember one doctor was talking in front of me, and I was watching them, and then it clicked. I said, oh man, they're pulling some bullshit. They're playing me. And I turned around, and I seen the other doctor pumping meds into my IV. And so I start trying to cut it off. They want to knock me out. Yeah. And so I started grabbing the IVs, and I started bending